Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live from news up at Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice Adu.
This evening, Speaker of Parliament breaks silence on the impasse arising from the vacant seat saga as he accuses the judiciary and the executive arms of government of colluding to weaken the legislative house as parliament. We have details of that from the speaker's media engagement earlier today.
Also coming up tonight, Electoral Commission in a meeting with political parties to present to them the final certified copies of the voters' register. We're live there shortly.
Remain your election command center as we have conversations on the back of Donald Trump being elected president of the United States in a stunning comeback. Reactions coming through shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 and Campaign Trail here on your election command center. We'll give you updates of what's happening on the campaign trails of all the presidential candidates going into this year's election. As always, we're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's settle for a summary of the news now. Safa Boahen is here.
Thank you, Alfred, and welcome to the news summary segment. Now to the details. The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has said he has no say in who becomes the majority or minority in Parliament. He says the question about which party occupies either side is an issue about numbers. He also dismissed claims that there is currently a constitutional crisis in Ghana. He says there is no constitutional crisis. Addressing a press conference in Accra on Wednesday, November 6, he said there is no constitutional crisis in this country. The Parliament of Ghana is alive and working. Let nobody mislead, misinform or disinform you and the country, says the Speaker. The immediate past national chairman of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, Dr. Samuel Ofusu-Ampofo, says the economic policies of the government are responsible for the difficulties confronting the people of Ghana. Addressing a gathering in Bator in the North Tongue constituency as part of the voter regional campaign tour of the NDC's vice presidential candidate, Professor Jane Nana Opukwajiman, on Tuesday, Dr. Ofusu-Ampofo described the economic policies of the government as weapons of mass destruction. Also, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, has said President Akrofi Adu and the judiciary have desecrated the 1992 Constitution by their actions in relation to the anti-LGBTQI+ bill. President Akrofi Adu has refused to assent to the anti-LGBTQI bill, which was passed by Parliament, stating that his office will only act on the bill after a final determination in a case against the bill, which is currently being heard by the Supreme Court. And on to our last story. After several failed protests to get retired Dr. Bonaventure Alagibam, the managing director of the irrigation company of the Upper East region, out of office, members of the General Agriculture Workers and Union and the Trade Union Congress have locked up offices of the company. The move, the unions say, forms part of sustained protests against his overstay and to get him to hand over affairs immediately. This brings us to the end of our news summary segment, and over to you, Alfred and Beatrice.
Thank you so much. So for Boahen, it's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. Let's get into the details today. The Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman, has expressed serious reservations over what he described as a coordinated effort by Ghana's judiciary and the executive to undermine Parliament's authority, framing it as an ongoing power struggle between the government and also other branches of governance in this country. The Speaker's allegations follow a recent Supreme Court ruling which upheld a previous decision blocking him from declaring 4 parliamentary seats vacant. This ruling has sparked intense debate over the constitutional boundaries of the Speaker's powers and the judiciary's influence in parliamentary affairs. Now, the Speaker had initially filed an application challenging the Supreme Court's intervention, arguing that Parliament, as a separate branch of government, should retain exclusive authority over its own decisions. His application also sought to nullify a writ from Majority Leader Alexander Panyumakan, which called for judicial intervention to prevent further declaration from Bagman on the disputed seats. In a media briefing earlier today, the Right Honourable Speaker accused the judiciary and the executive of encroaching on legislative independence, warning that this interference could destabilize Ghana's democracy.
There is no constitutional crisis in this country. I repeat, There is no constitutional crisis in this country. The Parliament of Ghana is alive and working. Let nobody mislead, misinform, or disinform you and the country. The democratic system we adopted and enacted, as captured in the Constitution 1992 and fleshed out in various laws, processes, procedures, and practices, is what has been triggered, and it is working. Let us allow it to work. Democracy is about the rule of law. Let the law work. The democratic system we adopted and enacted recognizes that in the course of operationalizing the system, disagreements will occur and challenges and problems will arise. The system has put in place mechanisms, structures, and institutions.
As the Speaker of Parliament there, and now let's stay a bit further on this matter. In fact, we're going to be hearing from the Speaker on a number of issues on the matter of the suspected collusion on this part between the judiciary and executive to weaken Parliament is another matter that he spoke passionately about, and answering a number of questions from journalist Dr. Rashid Rahman, Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, is joining us on the telephone. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Alfred.
There's one clear message that the Speaker sent out there. Parliament, as long as he leads, will not kowtow to any other arm of government, to the extent that the frustration that you could sense over what he described as legislators' growing habit of seeking the Supreme Court's intervention on parliamentary issues, which to him has led to Parliament not being respected. You sharing that view?
I very strongly share in that view, Alfred. I think that the more you listen to the Speaker and the more you analyze all the happenings in the last couple of weeks, the more you come to the conclusion that our leaders, having been elected as politicians and being politicians, they are supposed to sit down and talk and discuss. Now they don't want to do that. They listen, somebody runs to the court and seeks interpretation. That's not what we elected them to do. On rare occasions, they can. When the issues become intractable and maybe issues are not clear. But even before Parliament finishes its work, somebody has gone to the court. And for me, with all the work that we have done over the years to ensure a strong Parliament that can stand against the executive and check executive excesses, then this has been a big rollback. So the court is now supposed to be deciding in terms of what Parliament should do. So I think I share some of the views.
I see. And he raised an issue about the precedent that this is setting, and that what this means is that going forward, if any other person feels otherwise about a particular incident or an issue or a bill in Parliament, then they go to the courts, which also then impedes the progress of work of Parliament. How can this be addressed, really, if there's merit in that concern?
Yes, no, there's merit in it, Alfred, and I think that I've said this several times on your platform. Even one day, I think I jokingly said, if we are not careful in future, if somebody coughs in Parliament, someone will run to the court and say that, can you tell us whether this is parliamentary or unparliamentary? And once presidents begin to emerge, mischief is also going to emerge. In the future, people are going to quote some of these precedents that are being set. And if we are not careful, we'll end up with a situation that I have seen in another parliament, in another African country, where legal suit after legal suit left a parliament over 4 years unable to do even a single thing. We don't want that in our parliament. Like the Speaker said, when I listen to him, he says there is nowhere in the Constitution that says that, a president can even veto. In fact, I didn't even know that. He says that the framers of the Constitution took that power away. So if the president, for instance, disagrees with the bill that Parliament has passed, there are processes. But the president sinned against the Constitution. He also talked about the court. If the court is going to come in, the court waits, Parliament finishes, passes a law, and then the court will say, this frowns against the Constitution. And so if we're not careful, we are weakening an institution that is supposed to be the core. Alfred, that's the core. Today you remove Parliament in this equation, in the three kind of leg. You remove Parliament, we don't have a democracy. And we are busy trying to weaken that institution.
And it's clear, you're not going to be wrong if you say that he's already sent a clear message ahead of whatever is going to be happening tomorrow and then on the 11th of November, that his mission is to strengthen Parliament for the future. Clearly, yeah. It's an indication of the path he's going to take with this fracas that we see going on, is it not?
Honestly, Alfred, I don't know where our leaders are in this country, because many times some of us have said, if you leave this matter only to the legal approach, we are not going to get out of it. So I think let's all brace ourselves for what is likely to happen tomorrow, because you heard him right. He said that nobody came to talk to him, except I think the Council of State came to talk to him. I believe nobody talked to the NDC side, nobody talked to the MPP side, nobody tried to bring them together. People are sitting down assuming that, the court can order our MPs and then they will fall in line. Some of us had doubts about that. And even on your program, we heard Honorable Jinapo say, the Supreme Court cannot come and tell us where to sit in the House. That was a profound message. And I thought that, the calls that some of us have been making, look, let the three arms sit down and talk. Let them bring the leadership together. Let them make a deal. But everybody is sitting down thinking that this matter will resolve itself.
And if the sides in this matter are not able to sit to make a deal, I mean, you hear the Speaker talk about the fact that the most worrying for him is that these proceedings at the Supreme Court and other courts are initiated by some members of Parliament, even leaders of Parliament, who, in his view, ought to know better. And the fact that some of these issues can be handled by Parliament itself without necessarily having to resort to the courts. Now that this cannot be handled by Parliament, or is not being handled by Parliament itself, who has to step in? The Council of State has done that. It hasn't brought solution to the matter. There have been calls on the President to call the Speaker and the Chief Justice and the leaders of Parliament. Would that work?
Alfred, with all due respect, when I heard the Speaker say the Council of State came to see him, I was expecting to hear the other actors, the minority group, the majority group, whoever is that at this point, then even the judiciary, the Chief Justice and the President. If you go and talk to the Speaker, I think perhaps we're just dealing with a fraction of the problem, because there are so many actors in this. And perhaps maybe the Speaker is not even the person or the key person that needs to be spoken to. It is these two groups, the two groups. But nobody has done that. And now it looks like name-calling has started. We had, the Speaker being called the worst Speaker ever. We had the FEMACO going to court and saying, I'm stopping the Speaker from doing what he has to do. We had the presser this afternoon after the Speaker's press conference, Honorable Abuja saying they insist they are the majority. I guess we are in this for the long haul.
And clearly what's going to happen tomorrow, we have a strong indication, is it not? At least based on what has happened today.
Yes,
because
they asked him
that
what's going to happen tomorrow, he said, I don't know.
Precisely.
So that's a profound message, Alfred.
Indeed. So if that question about whose majority has not been answered as yet, even if Parliament is recalled tomorrow, that problem must still arise, and he may have no choice than to adjourn Sinadai again.
Yes, indeed. Tomorrow we are going to see the two sides trying to sit at the same place. So that's one scenario. Second scenario, we are going to see maybe one side walk out. Third scenario, we are going to see a fight.
Where to see. The countdown is on. Dr. Rashid Aman, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. He's the Executive of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, and this is the Speaker talking about a suspected collusion between the judiciary and the executive to weaken Parliament at that press conference earlier today.
The current brouhaha may be likened to a power play between the arms of government, and has the potential to undermine our democracy and the authority of Parliament. Its outcomes could subvert Ghana's constitutional order and the democratic system. Ghanaians have toiled, sacrificed their lives, and shed blood to establish for decades. Ladies and gentlemen, recent acts of the judiciary and executive, and I see them as interference in the workings of Parliament, pose a direct challenge to the essence, jurisdiction, authority, powers, and functioning of the esteemed institution of Parliament, which is the repository of the sovereign will of the people of Ghana. It is increasingly becoming clear the judiciary and the executive are seemingly colluding to weaken Parliament.
That's the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Alban Sumana Kisfalt Bagbing. There we'll come back to this and other issues that he spoke about. Stay with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7.
And let's bring you some more on election-related issues, because this evening the Electoral Commission is meeting with the various political parties to present to them the final certified copies of the voters' register. The final voters' register has been a bone of contention between the electoral management body and the main opposition party, the NDC. And let's cross over now to the venue where this event is happening.
FM 92.7. FM 92.7.
That's what we have. Not a summary. If we open, it means that these are what we are going to see. I believe that when you are giving, and this one I'm speaking because he's an IT, when you are giving a register to somebody, so that we do not hear in the media the noise and all of that, it is appropriate that you give us that total voters register, this is the number. Transfer, this is the number. So that when we go and we open and we have issues, we can raise it. Now, when I go and you send me, Jerry, this is a proper administration process. When we go and we have issues, you will notice that is what we bring about the noise. But when we are all here and we agree to it, and it will reduce the noise.
Let me ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the difference between receiving that list verbally and receiving that list as you walk out of the door, a hard copy of that list? Because you cannot dispute it.
The difference is that
this up to check.
The difference is that we could have been given this without the cameras. So once we are being given this in camera, at least whatever that is being contained here should be known to the whole nation in camera. So that when he goes and he's making noise, or A goes and is making noise, Ghanaians know that indeed it is just noise making. This would reduce the whole Buhaha EC party trust that it would help us. So let us do. It is good for the image of the Electoral Commission, and it's good to bring about the peace that we all want.
92.7. 3FM 92.7.
Thank you very much. Madam, I have been touched, and I was touched by the opening prayer by the Reverend Minister. Madam Chair, when you opened the meeting, you said it is finished. John 19:30. For us as New Patriotic Party, we looked at the CI 91 as amended. Regulation 27:4. And I read, the Commission shall make available a certified copy of the register to the registered political parties, i.e. New Patriotic Party, and any other person that the Commission considers necessary, i.e. independent candidate, not later than 21 days after the register has been certified. We have received this, and we hope that from the last engagement, which was 15th of October, the revised register was 80,772,251. My issue is I don't know the margin as we have on this final certified register. So I'm happy that we are going to be giving a copy of the summary you have, so that if there are any concern, you raise it with you, even though this is supposed to be the certified register. The New Patriotic Party, I must say, is committed to peace before, during, and after the December 7th elections. If you have any concern, we'll reach out to you. Thank you very much.
And you heard that the Director of Elections for the governing New Patriotic Party, Evans Dimako. Earlier you heard the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Mensah, in her interaction with all the political party representatives who are at this meeting where the Commission is presenting the final voters register to them. And we'll go back to the Electoral Commission and bring you some more.
Well, you're still live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. And while we're let's go back to our earlier story where the Speaker of Parliament addressing the press and a number of issues that came up. You've just heard Dr. Rashid Rahman also agreeing with the Speaker on the matter of the suspected collusion, in the words of the Speaker, between the judiciary and the executive to weaken Parliament as another arm of government. Let's bring in Martin Pebo, is private legal practitioner, and he's been following this quite closely as well. Counsel, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition. The Speaker is raising a number of issues. One of the issues is that the current impasse really is not amounting to any constitutional crisis. In fact, we had the Chief Justice made that point last week, that what we have now is a constitutional crisis on our hands. The Speaker thinks otherwise. What's your view on this?
Well, Mr. Ocansey, it's normal for people to disagree, and I'm sure you know that saying, popular saying that often two lawyers don't agree on what the law is, etc. So that is something that's playing out here. Because when you say crisis, at least we are saying that there is a time of what? Difficulty, because Parliament has been shut down. Parliament is not worked for how many days? So on the face of it, there's a problem. Yes, there's quite a big problem because Parliament is not working. So to that extent, I would say there's a crisis because the way Speaker had to adjourn Parliament, that wasn't something they had discussed. It wasn't on a friendly basis, right? Yes, it was rather on a, we all know the fact that led to the indefinite suspension of Parliament. So on this one, I will easily come on the side of the Chief Justice that it's obvious there's a crisis. I'm surprised the Speaker is playing off straight with it. The main point which we support the Speaker is that we don't think the judiciary, the Supreme Court treated this Parliament well in the way it has handled this matter. Yes. But as for denying a crisis, I don't think I can support the Speaker.
I see. Now, in his viewpoint, he argues that particular position essentially by making the point that to the extent that the law is clear on what has to be done and the fact that the judiciary cannot be seen or heard instructing or dictating to Parliament what has to be done, it is the judiciary that is creating a situation that is described as crisis. But then if the law has to play out as it is, there wouldn't be any crisis. And that's his position on this. That's why he takes that path.
Yeah, so that one, yes. He has a very unassailable point. Yes, like I said earlier, is the way the Supreme Court didn't handle this matter well that has led to this crisis. Yes, so that one, I think we are aligned on it, but it's the Supreme Court. This matter was not handled well at all. The provision was very clear. Even if the Supreme Court wanted to put a restraining order, like we said it 1,000 times now, they should have taken time to have the Speaker said, but to do an ex-parte hearing and give such a wide-ranging order in the absence of the Speaker and his legal representatives is something that the judiciary has really set our democracy back. It's not good at all. We will struggle to get that kind of respect, that kind of trust in the judiciary. We'll struggle to get the current level. And the current, the previous level wasn't that good. You're saying that Afrobarometer this survey that shows that in 2012 the judiciary has 65% of trust, and the 2024 one has brought it down to about 30%.
Yes, almost 28 to 30.
Right?
Yes,
that's a steep decline. So with the current happening, with what the kind of decision the Supreme Court gave in the vacant seat matter, it's going to cause further distrust. You see that this time, a lot more citizens have come out openly that, look, the Supreme Court, enough is enough. Yes, enough is enough. I've never seen so many citizens, very educated people, come out openly that, look, we are not on the side of the Supreme Court. It appears the Supreme Court, because we're generally very deferential to authorities, they're taking advantage to go too far. And you see that now citizens are saying enough is enough.
And maybe quickly before I let you go, this is a matter that keeps coming up every now and then, to the extent that the Speaker is resolute that Parliament weakens itself when the members of Parliament themselves continually resort to the courts for favorable judgments on matters that are essentially political and governance related and not strictly legal. The Chief Justice says this matter is constitutional before anything else. So at what point does Parliament, as it were, members of Parliament, if they are so minded, seek the intervention of the courts to address a seeming controversy brewing in the House?
Now that's a very difficult question. Very difficult. Yes, because politicians. You see, the bottom line is that politicians will do, and also it's part of human nature, that people do generally only things that will benefit them. So it's a difficult line to draw to say the parliamentarians should not go. I agree with the Speaker. What the Speaker is saying, that principle, I agree. But practically, too, because of the kind of democracy we run, which is a winner takes all, you can see that if the Asenyo Martin didn't take this matter to court, what it meant was that NDC had become the majority, and they would be majority for about almost 3 months to an election, 2.5 months minimum to an election, right?
Yes.
And already you saw also that some of the NDC members, Atukosun and Kodi, had come out to say things they will reverse, etc. So, though the speaker is right in principle, but what Asenyo also did is right practically. Not right. It's not strange. A politician would do that because he wouldn't want to lose face. He wouldn't want to cede ground to his opponent. So it's really difficult. All of them have something. Listen, what they've all done in law, or what the speaker is saying, and what Asenyo Martin did by going to court, are things that are to be expected. That the speaker, on his part, would want the members of parliament to be conscious and use their last ounce of energy to build parliament, to make parliament strong and independent, which we all would love to see. But it's also the case that no politician would easily give in a fight, easily surrender the majority to its opponent without putting up a fight. Putting up a fight in this case is going to the Supreme Court. So this one, let's discuss. Yes, hopefully with time, it will get better. But when the stakes are very high, it's not unusual to see the MPs at Asenyo Martin going to court. And the Chief Justice saying it's a constitutional matter. Yes, it is, but it's also one that they could have chosen not to come to court. Yes. But what the speaker did, the speaker's ruling, for me, I believe is right. Isiama, as we talk now, is NPP. If he was not NPP, he couldn't have been sponsored as a parliamentary candidate of the NPP for the 2024 elections. Cynthia Mamle Morrison, as we speak, is no longer NPP because she filed to contest as an independent. And the NPP constitution is clear that if you do such a thing, you automatically forfeit your seat. The same thing goes for Kuja Asante of the Suhum constituency. And then the NDC candidate, Peter Kwachi Aka. Yeah. So, I support the speaker's ruling. But as I stated earlier, you see the Supreme Court came in because we have ideological, jurisprudential, and philosophical differences. So, one thing in law, one provision in law, one law, as you see, Article 97 clause 1, J and H, looking very clear to me. The Supreme Court says no. Once they are putting rival meanings on it, it is a case for constitutional interpretation. As I stated on Saturday, you can't fault the Supreme Court too much because in law, they can support it. So that's the problem with law. That's the problem with law. You see one text. Yes, two lawyers cannot agree on the meaning of that text. That's what it's playing now. So this one belongs to one school of thought. The other one belongs to another school of thought. And as I told you, as I mentioned, we have different ways of interpreting the Constitution. Sometimes they'll tell you that the literalist approach is enough. Then other times they say, no. It's the modern purposive approach, mischief rule, etc. We have different tools of interpreting the Constitution. So when you get, because now there are different ways of interpreting, that's the problem with law. It gives opportunity for people to hide their political leanings and desires behind the schools of thought. So when it is convenient to be literalist, the person will go in there and say, the literal school of thought says this. That's what I'm applying. When it's convenient, a person can go into the modern purposive approach to interpreting the Constitution and say, I'm doing modern purposive approach, which we popularly call MOPA, M-O-P-A, right? So that's the problem with law. But as we keep talking and talking, hopefully the Supreme Court will listen and see that, yes, even though in law you can justify what you are doing, but where the justice does not accord with the ordinary man's sense of justice, then you have to be careful about the school of thought you are using. because Article 125 is very clear that justice emanates from the people. So people expect justice to reflect their sense of justice. So in a situation like this, where this is very clear that, look, these MPs, their actions affect their current positions in Parliament, and yet people are telling us, oh, it relates to a future Parliament, the Supreme Court should not be quick to grant such a stay of execution.
Counsel, well said. I thank you so much for your thoughts on this matter. Appreciate you as always.
You're welcome.
Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner, one of the foremost human rights lawyers we have in this country.
And we stay a bit longer on this, and we're joined by Bernard Ahiafo, his ranking member on the Constitutional and Legal Committee of Parliament, also the Member of Parliament for Akachi South. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Mr.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. You can hear us. I first want to get your reaction to the Speaker's press conference, really, and the fact that he also didn't seem to have given any clarity as regards what might happen in Parliament tomorrow, bearing in mind what transpired the last time.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, and let me say a very good evening to your listeners. As a matter of fact, the Speaker's media engagement is very succinct. It's very clear in his submission. So, the day will carry itself.
The day will carry itself. What does that mean?
Yes. Well, constitutionally, he believes in the supremacy of the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, above and beyond which no further law exists. And the Constitution makes provision that when a number of members of Parliament petition and sign it, the Speaker is enjoined to recall Parliament. So he's, by the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, mandated to recall Parliament. And he did so within the ambit of the law. And tomorrow, Parliament has been recalled. And whatever business that will be carried out by Parliament during recall is determined by the business statement. And as we speak right now, I have not seen a copy of the business statement. So it is difficult for me to say that tomorrow ABC business is the one that will be carried out by the House.
I think when the question was asked about what he anticipated could happen, it was primarily about the seating and the eventual confusion that took place before he suspended or adjourned Parliament indefinitely.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I believe that when the procedure is set down for a right to be exercised, it is that procedure that will have to be followed in exercising the right. This is a judicial decision in some of the cases. As a matter of fact, minority and majority is defined by our standing order. So in the circumstances, it is clear as to who is in majority, who is in minority.
Which is what?
And following the law, we need to abide by our own standing orders. And then majority will sit wherever they will have to sit, and minority will sit wherever they will have to sit, based on the status quo.
But as we speak, you know that this majority-minority thing is being contested. And, of course, the Speaker is not necessarily abiding by the decision of the Supreme Court to stay his earlier ruling, as it were.
Yes, you actually point it out. So if that being the situation, then the status quo must prevail. As we speak right now, by the Speaker's ruling, which political party forms majority, which one forms a minority in Parliament. That is the law we need to go by.
Are you not concerned that indeed there have been these rulings from the Supreme Court? Yes, bearing in mind the Speaker saying at that press conference today that he felt what is happening or what the Supreme Court did was a clear interference with the works of Parliament. You're not concerned that there's this in place, and yet we're having the Speaker take the stance he's taking. And again, even before this press conference today, we know that yesterday Dafia Mepo also filed a suit asking that the Speaker is barred from reconvening Parliament. All these are in place, and yet this is what we are going to witness tomorrow. He says you're sitting.
As a lawyer in my 23rd year at the bar, I would have to avoid commenting on the matters sub judice, as you have indicated that these matters are before court.
But you've already commented on the other areas.
Filed a suit that is going into the merit of the matter. That is what I will not do.
So,
are you getting my point? I wouldn't go into the merit of the matter. But just like how the Speaker said, I also believe in the supremacy of the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land, above and beyond which no further law exists. So during the vetting of the current Chief Justice, he indicated that as a textualist, you look at the law. Now, we all look at Article 97, 1G and H. And as a textualist, we all look at the provision. It is clear and unambiguous. So I don't expect any further interpretation to be put on the matter, apart from what the text of the law is unambiguously stated.
And you don't believe that with the current, you don't think that with the current position of the Supreme Court asking the Speaker or Parliament to stay that earlier ruling, and also the two suits filed by that private individual, Tete and Dafiamepo, yesterday, there's a need for the Speaker to respect that as well. You don't see anything wrong with it?
I will resist vehemently any temptation to comment on the matter subjudice.
Nonetheless, tomorrow Parliament is expected to reconvene, as we heard the Speaker say, and we do not know who will be going to the minority or the majority side. But I want to find out from you what responsibility the NDC would want to take to ensure that we don't witness another chaotic scene in Parliament tomorrow.
Apparently, I am not in the leadership of Parliament.
But you're part of the NDC caucus.
Yes, I'm part of the NDC caucus. So when we get to Parliament, whatever decision that our leaders have taken, I will abide by it.
We'll have to end it here.
Member of the caucus.
Thank you very much, Bernard here, for joining us on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7.
And while at it, let's hear from the Speaker also disproving that position that there is a constitutional crisis.
There is no constitutional crisis in this country. I repeat, there is no constitutional crisis in this country. The Parliament of Ghana is alive and working.
That's the Speaker of Parliament. But exactly a week ago, this was the verdict of the Chief Justice, Gato Tokono, on whether there's constitutional crisis or not in this country.
This is a constitutional crisis. We are living in a country where the parliament is not sitting. What is going on?
I'm not too sure that this suit is to enable parliament sit. It's to declare.
Very well. Yes, I take it. That's really in your
so if I would.
Well, so there you have it there. That's the two opposing positions on whether there's constitutional crisis or not. And this one that we'll keep an eye on and see how things play out. Tomorrow, Parliament has been recalled, and the NDC caucus in Parliament, in fact, the whip of the NDC caucus in Parliament addressed the press earlier today, indicating that they will occupy the majority side of the House tomorrow when Parliament is recalled. This is Gavin Kwame Abuja, the Adaklu member of Parliament, speaking earlier at a press conference.
Not intend to be called minority leader in 2024, and that will not happen. I will be going to Parliament on Thursday as majority chief whip, and I'll come back as majority chief. Whoever doesn't like it can do whatever he or she likes. As far as I'm concerned, the 4 colleagues have actually vacated their seat in accordance with Article 97. And since they are not going to renege on that decision not to contest, they are no longer valid members of Parliament. Your Excellency, you are a pace setter. You have achieved so many firsts. May I remind you this evening that you have achieved another first. You are the first running mate of a party to step foot to do a campaign in this constituency for the first time.
That may come in front of us. Our advice to our colleagues in the minority MPP is to try and prioritize business that is in the interest of the people of this country, and they shall find favor and cooperation with us in time to deal with those businesses. We can assure them that as long as the business is in the interest of improving the lot of Ghanaians, they can count on the majority NDC caucus in Parliament to support those initiatives to pass those things that would help the people of this country. So it is a very brief information we are giving you. We will be attending upon the House as directed by Mr. Speaker. We shall be taking our seat in the chamber in accordance to the majority side, which we are in Parliament, and we shall be open to supporting our colleagues in the minority to conduct businesses that are in the interest of the people of this country. Thank you.
As Governs Kwame Abuja, Adakro Member of Parliament, also a whip on the NDC caucus in this 8th Parliament.
Let's return to the Electoral Commission. I told you earlier that the Commission was meeting with political parties to present these representatives with a certified voters register, and George Quaining is monitoring the event for us. He joins us live on the line. George, what can you tell us? What's happening?
Thank you so much, Beatrice. So, Beatrice, according to the last IPAC meeting held by the Electoral Commission and the political parties, it was resolved that by the first week of November, the certified voters register will be made available to all these political parties. It's a reason the EC has convened this very meeting, and all the parties are here, and they presented the certified copy on a hard disk. But before that, the NDC, led by Alfred Akrofi, who was in charge of the IT and elections, declined to accept it. The fact that they wanted the contents of it to be known, the summary, the number of registered and all that, which is actually not on the drive. And so what actually is going on now is the Electoral Commission chairperson and the IT team has gone into a smaller meeting, and they're trying to bring out the summary of the voters register, either in hard copy or soft copy, to all the agreed parties, which especially is the NDC.
Earlier, we also heard this exchange between the Director of Elections for the governing MPP, Evans Nimakon, as well. Are you able to tell us what his problem exactly was?
I think those concerns were still about I think it was about the certified voters. But did you say computer at the NDC?
No, I'm talking about Evans Nimakon of the MPP.
I think his concerns were he was actually reacting to, what's the name, computers claims that if the summary is not made available, that means it doesn't make it a credible piece. Because for the EC, we are all championing for a credible, free and fair election. And so for this very one, which they are actually giving now, because this is just some few weeks to the elections, this is the final one. So if this is what is going to be used for elections, and the EC has said this is it, the NDC is actually not in compliance with claims by the EC, but the MPP is actually reacting to claims that what they are saying is otherwise. And so it's fit for purpose, and so we should go with it.
And that's my final question to you. Aside from NDC, NPP, are there any concerns coming from the other political parties?
No, they all accepted in good faith. The major concern was coming from Alfred Akrofi, who led the NDC team. So whatever his concerns are, that is what the EC is actually going to solve, which is the summary of the voters register, either in hard copy or soft copy, because at least they want to know the number of registered who are going to vote and how the composition will look like, either in soft or hard copy. So according to the EC, in the next 1 hour, that will be made available, either in soft or hard copy.
Thank you very much, George Quaining. He's a man following that meeting between the Electoral Commission and political parties as the EC hands over that certified voters register ahead of the December 7 general election. And the man George Quaining mentioned, Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer, Deputy Director of Elections and IT for the opposition NDC, joins us live on the line. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, dear. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking, Doc. So we just heard a summary of some concerns coming from the NDC regarding the register being presented to you by the Electoral Commission. Can you tell us specifically what it is?
Well, clearly they say they have given a certified register. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like a certified register, because you can't give us a register without statistics of it, a summaries of it, breakdown of what is in the register. So we raised preliminary objections and said, no, we cannot just come in and we dump a document to us that this is the register, take it, and we take it like that. No, we don't do that. at least give us a heads up, give us summaries of it, give us what is embedded in the register before we can go and look at it. But you can't give us something that we don't know what is in it, and then we go out and then you'll be coming out with different figures without our knowledge. We want the public to know. We want the media who is present there to also be on the same page with us.
And we had a reporter tell us earlier that the EC has promised to give you that within the next hour. There was actually some group meeting with leaders. Did that happen?
Well, we are still waiting. We are here. We are still waiting for them. They've gone up to now. For the past 30 to 1 hour now, they have not come back. We are still waiting for them.
All right. Aside from that, the opposition NDC is okay with everything else going on at the headquarters of the Electoral Commission?
We are not okay because they have not provided the needed information. So we cannot say we are okay. We have held them up to now. Otherwise, if we hadn't raised this objection, they were just going to dump a document to us without anybody knowing what the content of the document is. So for us, our eagle eye is on top of issues, and we are monitoring closely.
And where the needed information you talk about is what you just explained without the summaries and the statistics?
Well, that is what we are looking for. That is the body of the register. How you pick a register without knowing the statistics on it? Right. As we speak now, if you ask all of your reporters there, what is the total registered voters for the certified register? They don't know. They have not provided.
All right.
So how are you going to report?
We'll end it here. Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer. He's Deputy Director of Elections and IT for the opposition NDC.
It's live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. We're back shortly after the business news with Michael Obudu. Stay with us here on Hot Edition.
Today, we thank you very much for your invaluable service to this great company, and we wish you well on your retirement. Cheers.
Thank you.
Happy retirement, Lay.
Thank you very much.
So are you staying or you are going back to Ghana?
I'm going back home, of course.
Wow. You really built?
I've got a home at Lakeside Estate.
Really?
Lakeside Hills is a dream come true, a community designed for all stages of life. Whether you're a growing family needing more space, a young professional looking for convenience, or someone seeking a peaceful retirement, Lakeside Hills has it all. With 2, 3, and 4 bedroom homes, there's something for everyone.
That's impressive. Exactly what I'm looking for. I have to start saving towards this.
See you back home.
Lakeside Hills, it's not just a place to live, it's a place to thrive.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the business segment here on Hot Edition. Coming up tonight, rising food and non-food costs push inflation to increase marginally to 22.1% for the month of October. We'll hear from government statistician Professor Samuel Kobna-Eni. My name is Michael Obudu. To bring you details shortly.
Free Wi-Fi for all schools and colleges, affordable housing and rental accommodation. Galamsey no small scale mining no so obesity ye. Said the buyer answer Ghana and Sassini you was say na ban be ma for edua marijuana for industrial use. It is a go to Abanua December 7th. Presidential box mono. Shobe bia Kofi Akpeluda. Na o me she Ghana you.
Put number 5. Yes.
Well, let's bring you details of our top story now. Inflation for the month of October has marginally increased to 22.1% from 21.5% recorded in September. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, food inflation reached 22.8%, while non-food inflation stood at 21.5%, reflecting marginal increases across both categories. Professor Samuel Kobna-Eni is government statistician.
2.1%. And again, consistent with overall rate of inflation, this is the second successive month that we've seen an increase in overall food inflation, as it increased from 19.1% to 22.1%, a 3.0 percentage point difference between August and September 2024, and has further increased by 0.7 percentage points between September and October 2024. In the case of non-food inflation, we're seeing non-food inflation in the last 4 months hovering between 20.5 percentage point and 21.5 percentage point. In the month of July 2024, non-food inflation was 20.5%, increased to 21.5% in August 2024, dipped by 0.6 percentage point in September 2024, and has seen a return to 21.5% for October 2024.
And that was government statistician Professor Samuel Kobna-Eni. Meanwhile, the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, has described the persistent high inflation in Ghana to failure of the Bank of Ghana's inflation targeting framework. In its latest economic outlook report, the institute projected inflation will remain high for the rest of the year, with these factors persisting. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more.
The Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, has attributed Ghana's persistently high inflation to weaknesses in the country's monetary policy, specifically the reliance on a demand-based inflation targeting framework. According to the economic think tank, this approach has failed to address underlying supply and cost factors like rising food and fuel prices, as well as currency depreciation, which are driving up inflation. Inflation has remained in the lower 20s since December 2023, despite a sharp drop from a peak of 54% in December 2022. The IEA warns that these pressures will keep inflation elevated for the rest of the year, affecting consumer spending, with Ghanaians now allocating 43% of their monthly budgets to food alone. The think tank also supports the Bank of Ghana's updated inflation forecast of 17 to 19% for 2024, calling it a realistic though disappointing outlook. The IEA stresses that breaking the inflation cycle will require coordinated efforts from both the central bank and the government to address these underlying cost drivers.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Away from that, Airtel Ghana Limited has announced a transfer of its contractual obligations to PPL Net Ghana Limited effective from October 1, 2024. The move ensures PPL Net Ghana Limited will now assume all responsibilities under existing agreements, while Airtel Ghana retains accountability for any prior obligations. The following report has more.
According to Airtel Ghana, the company has novated its contracts to PPL Net Ghana Limited effective November 1, 2024. This means PPL Net Ghana Limited will now assume all rights and responsibilities under existing agreements. However, Airtel Ghana will remain accountable for any outstanding payments or obligations that arose before this date. Airtel Ghana has also clarified that any enquiries or invoices related to the period before November 1 should be directed to them. Moving forward, all future correspondence and transactions will be handled by PPL Net Ghana Limited. Airtel Ghana has, however, assured partners that the terms of current contracts will not be affected by the novation.
And on that note, that'll be all for the business segment here on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Lubudru. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is sports.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on CFM 92.7 with me, Ore Kuampofo. A news just coming in is that West Ham and Ghanaian midfielder Mohamed Kudus has expressed regret over his actions during his last month's heated clash against Tottenham Hotspur, which led to a red card and an extended ban. Initially suspended for 3 matches, the Ghanaian international now faces a 5-game suspension following an additional charge of violent conduct from the English FA. The ruling also includes a £60,000 fine. He will miss the games against Everton this weekend, the trip to Newcastle, and then the game against Arsenal. In a statement to the Independent Regulatory Commission, Kudus described feeling deeply embarrassed by his behaviour after fouling Tottenham defender Mickey van der Ven. Apologising in a letter shared by the Commission, Kudus admitted that he had lost his cool and that his actions were out of character. Moving on to some other stories, former Manchester City defender Benjamin Mendy will receive majority of his unpaid wages, a judge has ruled after a legal battle over £11 million in salary. Mendy, who was suspended without pay by Manchester City from September 2021 until his departure in June 2023, took the club to an employment tribunal after being charged with rape and sexual assault in August 2021. He was cleared of all charges in 2023 following 2 separate trials. Now, the judge ruled that City had the right to withdraw Mendy's wages for the time he spent in custody, which was around 5 months. However, she stated that City could not withhold pay for the periods when Mendy was unable to play due to a Football Association suspension and bill conditions. There's Champions League football later tonight as Mikel Arteta's men would be looking to bounce back from defeat against Newcastle when they play at the San Siro against Inter Milan. However, there has been some injury concerns for Arsenal, and Mikel Arteta has been speaking ahead of the game.
Yeah, well, the positive news, Martin, great to have him back. Obviously, he's trained with us for the first time. A full session today. He felt good. It's a bit earlier than we expected, but he wanted to be with the team, so we'll decide tomorrow whether to use him or not, but at least it's a big step that he's traveled with us and is part of the team. And Declan, unfortunately, he picked an injury during the match against Newcastle. He was able to finish the game, but he wasn't feeling good in the last few days, so we'll have to assess him on Thursday and understand whether he's going to be fit or not for the weekend.
Well, in another game tonight, which has already commenced, Aston Villa are in Belgium against Club Brugge in the Champions League match day 4 match. That's the early kickoff. It's 0-0 after 20 minutes, but Aston Villa could go top, that's joint top of the league phase. If they beat Club Brugge, that would ensure that they keep their 100% start to the Champions League so far. Let's hear from head coach Unai Emery.
But we are trying to separate the different competition, focusing in each moment how we are. But of course, we are building the team and we are trying to create a strong structure in some issues like to be tactically more or less understanding and being focused 90 minutes how we want or how we can feel strong and comfortable.
Well, that was Unai Emery speaking, and it's currently 0-0 between Club Brugge and Aston Villa. Shakhtar Donetsk are also being held to a goalless draw after 20 minutes by Young Boys. The other games that will kick off later at 8 p.m. are Bayern Munich versus Benfica. Red Star Belgrade face Barcelona, who are in some really good form. Feyenoord host Red Bull Salzburg. Arsenal travel to the San Siro to face Inter Milan. PSG host Atletico Madrid. Sparta Prague do square up against Brest, and then Stuttgart would be hosting Atalanta in Germany. For updates on all of these games, you can follow us on social media at 3SportsGH. My name is Ore Kuampofo, and Hot Edition continues right after this.
the most comprehensive election coverage.
Top-notch presenters and well-versed analysts.
Dedicated reporters and correspondents in every nook and cranny across the country.
All the action, every incident reported. All the big stories covered.
All facts cross-checked. Every figure verified.
Every vote monitored and accounted for.
The numbers tallied, analyzed, and interpreted.
We have invested time and energy in order to bring you a comprehensive elections coverage.
The whole world will be watching us on TV, online, and radio.
Election Command Center. Facts, analysis, results.
And you're still here on Hot Edition on True FM 92.7. Thank you very much for staying with us. Let's bring you some more here. And workers involved in the new Bank of Ghana project are currently protesting against what they describe as illegal layoffs. The workers have gathered at the Trades Union Congress to demand the compensation and packages they believe are owed them. Joseph Armstrong was there. He just returned from that venue. He joins us live in the studio. Joseph, first of all, just tell us how many workers are going to be laid off, and if you know why they are being laid off.
So these are about 100 workers who have been laid off already. I gathered that they were laid off sometime last week. So it's been a week now since they were laid off, and per the contract or agreement they have with the company, which I'm told is a Chinese company, they are supposed to be paid some packages after being laid off. In this case, the very day they were served notice of going to be laid off, that very day they were asked to sign, and then they were asked to proceed on the, like their work has come to an end, so they should just go, and that is it. Meanwhile, they are supposed to be paid some 3 months or so allowances before laying them off entirely, but the company failed to do so. Hence, they are protesting. As I speak to you now, they are still there.
They're still there. If you're watching us on Facebook, we're showing you some footages from there.
Before I left, I saw some police officers that were deployed there, and I heard they are calling for reinforcement because the Chinese company, as in the leadership of the Chinese company, are currently in a meeting with TUC, and the workers have also decided to pitch camp there. They are refusing to leave the place so the Chinese contractors can come out. They vowed that they will make sure they take their money from the contractor before he leaves the TUC premises, and this is what has led to the invitation of the Ghana police to come in and escort the contractors of the building.
But tell us if you know the kind of contract these workers had with a Chinese company that is now laying them off, because ideally the assumption is that this is an ongoing work. They are getting temporary people, so the moment your work is done, you go.
But these are workers who have worked for at least the 2.5 years this project has been going on. And then they also said to me they were supposed to pay their SNIT, but the SNIT wasn't paid.
It's part of the agreement.
It's part of the agreement. So it's more or less like a full-time working kind of, but unfortunately their SNIT have not been paid. Their risk allowance has not been paid. Some of the workers also told me that 2 of their colleagues died in the line of duty. Just last month, 1 person died. He fell from the 16th floor to ground floor, and then that was the end of his life. Last year, 1 of their colleagues also died, also falling from the 7th floor. So he also died, also because of the some of the ladders they use are not really strong. So they'll be up the next minute they're down, and there's no risk allowance for them. But for the workers, they've worked so hard to ensure that the short period they gave them to put up this over 16th floor building, they finish on record time. Ideally, this building we are told should have taken like 5 years for the company to finish. But because they wanted to finish before December, they have to double up the work, leading to some of them dying in the process. So if today we are almost done with the work and you want us to go home, ideally, the best thing you want to do is to pay us packages that is due us. I've been speaking to a few of them. Let's take a listen to them.
It's not
Taylor. He did Oba, yeah, man, it's not good for police. Or Buakra. If you are general, yes, but I don't know. Just come here. Just come on. This one, well, what's up? Yeah, but they are just 1.5. Or let's have a second.
That they are doing negotiating. They are negotiating with the what you call the board meeting, which right now things are not even click. Things are not even click. So right now we don't know what is going on right now. So they say that's why they called you people to come. And now one thing again, they say that our Senate, they are not been paying our Senate. Oh, some of them 2 years, some of them 3 years, some of them some months.
So what do you want?
So right now we are dealing with the laying of money. The laying of money.
How much is that? You know how much that is?
No, that one I don't know. That one is 1 year, 2 months salary. They say right now is 1 year, 2 months salary, which they say that no, they are not going to pay that 1 month, 2 months salary. They are negotiating with the the board meeting, so they want to pay, which is 1 year, 3 weeks. Where the board meeting and the China state were they are negotiating with the laying of money, and they said that right now they reach some stage which they say they want to pay 1 year, 1 month.
Okay, what's your name?
Richard Budu.
Okay.
So we just had some of the workers there speaking to you earlier, but I wanted to take you back a bit to the two individuals the workers alleged died during work. Do you have information as to whether or not the company has compensated the family or at least met them halfway?
Yeah, so I'm told the one who died last month, October, was buried just this last Saturday. And I tried to pick more information, but they said if anything, I would have to go and sit with management of the company. But unfortunately, I couldn't get to the leadership of the company to talk to. So hopefully, maybe our next visit to the place, we'll be able to get more details as to whether indeed they were able to settle them halfway or whichever way that will be good for the family.
And I know before you left, the meeting between the Chinese company representatives and the TEC was ongoing, but have you had any information from the TEC as regards what's really happening or the way forward?
Yeah, so I spoke with the General Secretary for the TUC, and then he said to me that the Chinese contractors are still with them and they are going to insist that an MOU is signed and make sure that the money that the workers, the money that is due them is given them before they allow the contractor to leave the place, because per the agreement, he's supposed to pay the money after that and not in installment as the company is saying. So for the TUC, they are very particular and they are so sure that before the contractor leave the place today, they will insist the money that is due the workers is given them before they leave. So hopefully by close of day, we should get some good response coming from TUC themselves. And I'm going to follow up from tomorrow and see how this ends, Beatrice.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Joseph Armstrong, bringing us update regarding the protests happening currently at the TUC office of workers who've been taking part in that construction of the new Bank of Ghana building.
Oh, you're also live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. And we're live on W93.5 in Y and beyond. Shortly, we get into campaign trail on your election command center, some 31 days to election day, December 7. But before that, after several failed protests to get the retired managing director of the irrigation company of the Upper East region, Dr. Bonaventure Alegebam, out of office, members of the General Agricultural Workers Union, that's GAWU, and the Trades Union Congress have locked up offices of the company. Now, the move, the union says, forms part of sustained protests against his overstay and to get him to hand over affairs immediately. Correspondent Castro Signala has been following this. He's joining me on the telephone right now. Castro, give us an understanding of what happened at that particular area today and what the members of the two unions are saying as we speak.
Right, Alfred, it was an eyesore this morning when, as early as 8 o'clock a.m., members of the GAU and that of TUC massed up at the premises of ICO. They had one thing in mind, and that was to lock up all offices at the company and then make sure that the MD doesn't gain access to his office. They first of all started with his office. He has 2 offices. They locked both of them. And what they did was that they added extra locks and extra padlocking systems to each of the doors of the companies that they wanted to shut down. They shut that quickly, and then after that, they marched through the company peacefully before they settled down to address the press. And in their statement, they made it clear that the continued stay of Dr. Aligabam Bonaventure was illegal and government needed to take action. Alfred, they gave government 1 week to get things removed because if government does not, they would be left with no choice but to take further actions. As to what their actions are, Alfred, I can't tell exactly what it is, but I can tell that, yes, they would not relax as far as getting Aligabam out of the company is concerned. I also spoke to some farmers who raised very, very, grave concerns, saying that, the rice production or the capacity of the area, which is the tunnel irrigation scheme, has dropped significantly. And this is because Aligabam has changed the farming timetable and is running the company the way he wishes. And for that matter, they also joined calls by GAU and that of TUC for Aligabam to be axed as immediately as possible.
Right, but you've been following Dr. Aligabam for quite a while. But why is he still resolute in staying at post when the workers believe that even his period of extension, the contract given to him has expired and he has to hand over now? What is Aligabam's issue?
Right, Alfred, you see, that question lingers in the minds of a lot of people, and that is what people keep asking. What is at ICO that you and I don't see that Aligabam sees, and he doesn't want to leave office no matter what they do, even to the extent that presidency has asked him to leave and he's still there. That is what we don't understand. But according to workers there, Aligabam allegedly is conniving with some people there to siphon funds belonging to the company. And he's enjoying them. He's enjoying the vehicle that he has. He goes to take diesel free of charge. He has a cozy apartment just not far from the company that was renovated by he himself to his standards. And all of this could be, according to what they say, some of the reasons why Aligabam doesn't want to look back as far as leaving office is concerned. He still wants to stay so that he's able to enjoy these goodies that, a managing director of the company would obviously enjoy. They are also accusing Aligabam of fearing to leave because if he does, whoever is going to take over from him would see some illegal transactions that took place during his tenure. And if investigations are launched, he may be prosecuted for a lot of wrongdoings. And for that matter, he wants to stay longer enough so that he's able to cover up these footprints before he leaves office. But we cannot independently verify and then say if these allegations they are making against him are true. But we keep following the situation and we'll let listeners get the understanding of it.
Certainly, we can trust you for that. But let's hear from the workers you spoke to earlier.
Chief of Staff, Office of the President in September of 2024 with reference SRC D839/113/01/C in respect of the above matter. In the said letter, the Chief of Staff issued a directive to Dr. Benedict Aligabam to hand over his office immediately following his retirement on March 7, 2024. It will be recalled that similar letters from the Human Resource Office of ICO, Madam Agatha Agurugu, the Minister for Agriculture, Honorable Brian Achiampong, and the former Regional Minister for the Upper East Region, Honorable Stephen Yakubu, have all been ignored by Dr. Aligabam. Following the recent directives, the Upper East Regional Minister has made frantic effort to get Dr. Aligabam to hand over the office by end of October 2024, or to no avail.
Castro, I thank you for this, and there must be something really that's giving the Dr. Bonaventure Aligabam that power to still stay at post, even though the presidency has even asked him to vacate his position. That's quite some flex of power there, is it not? Castro Senyala is our Upper East Regional correspondent, giving us updates on the situation there at the irrigation company in the Upper East region. As we speak, is live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. We're at Menio Election Command Center, and this is Campaign Trail.
And you're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM and 92.7. Welcome to Campaign Trail, and it's the presidential candidate of the opposition NDC, John Mahama, who is criticizing the NPP's flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, over the current economic crisis. John Mahama, who is on a tour to the OT region, is questioning why the vice president is running away from the economic mess caused by his government.
Or should I say, Akufo Adu nye president, Papa, because of our say, beye na bedi chiri. Afe o kase, o ba, o beye adia, echese woman penye na andwe ho. Afe na womum, enyom etwa odi bai, wosi ubetwem. Edia oye, obe na aden no amana sa adwen no. Na mwentimi anye sa nyoma na okase obeye no se okase Akufo Adu amambuo no won pene so na nyoma oye no efutu a woma no onfa eden na ose oye else wotwe won ho firi aban no enso watena ho sa ene amene okase okọ cabinet meeting enti betting tax and kwadane kase twemu no Ubetimi ako cabinet nde ako kase yetwa betting tax no mu enti yen free o ezu wosi yen to abama o ansa no abeyi betting tax yenye emofra nia oka no eye nada.
And you heard the flag bearer of the opposition NDC, John Mahama, in summary, and what he said in Chi. He was asking the vice president and flag bearer of the governing New Patriotic Party why he did not give the ideas he currently has, and he says he would implement when he or if he becomes president, to the current president to implement. And if indeed what he said that he was just the mate and his ideas were not being listened to, why did he not resign but waited? And is even promising to remove betting tax after he's become president.
Well, still on Campaign Trail here on your Election Command Center. Flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, says with the launch of the credit scoring system tomorrow, Ghana is going to change. Addressing stakeholders at Fijai East, the NPP flag bearer called on the people to vote for him for more development in the country. He also promised his government will increase investment into railway services. He's also confident a strong railway system will cut down importation and improve on transport system in the country. And this is what he's been saying. On his tour of Fijai East. Unfortunately, we lost Daniel Opoku, who's a man with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's campaign team. Something coming through from Professor Nana Opoku Agyemang?
Indeed, it's been 2 days of campaign in the Volta region, now one of the strongholds of the NDC. Now, the party's vice presidential candidate, Professor Nana Opoku Agyemang, is touring 11 out of the 18 constituencies in that region. Well, she's been urging residents to vote out the NPP. Listen.
Very appreciative. I'm very humbled by the recognition. I know that the expectations are very high, but I also know that this is not a journey that only one person takes. So I'm counting on the Queen Mothers. I'm counting on the Kings. I'm counting on the party. I'm counting on all of us to combine and reset our country. In the process of resetting, it's very important to be mindful of the person who is leading us. We need a leader who will tell us the truth, a leader who will not lie to us, a leader who respects, a leader who inspires, a leader who is so confident that when he makes a mistake, he can accept it. We need a leader who will take us forward. And who is this leader that I'm talking about? We need a leader we can trust. We need a leader we don't have doubts about. We need a leader we have tried and tested and seen his worth. We need a leader who puts the people first, who doesn't think of his own self and the few people around him. We need a leader who considers the entire country as the people around him. And that is the leader from whom I'm speaking and from whom I'm sending you his greetings. And this person is no other person than His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. We all remember all the things that were said about this man. We all remember the lies, the false accusations. What didn't they say about him? Now here we are. Hasn't he been vindicated? Hasn't his integrity been restored? Let us all be very careful. Now who are the guilty ones? The people who accuse him now stand guilty. You see what God can do. And because we trust him, we know that when he says something, he will do it. We are not describing an angel. Nobody is. But he, insofar as he accepts his shortcomings, insofar as he's able to turn his current experiences into assets that he can add to the previous ones, we know this is a person who is ready to go far and to take all of us with him. And that is why we are standing by him. And that is why we are going to vote for him. And that is why we are going to trust him and we are going to work hard with him to ensure that we can restore our country. And that is why we are also going to vote for my brother here, Kwame Agocha. Actually, it's not even my brother. I said that he's happy. I mean my son. So that together we can put the talents God has given us at the service of the people of God.
And you heard the running mate to John Mahama, Professor Nana Jane Opokwajiman, speaking in the Volta region.
Well, that brings us to the end of Campaign Trail here on your Election Command Center. Some 31 days. December 7, it's exactly 6:31. That's when we say bye-bye to you. We're back tomorrow. Join me at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight. It's also live on 3FM 92.7 at 10 p.m. Make it 8. I am Alfred Akrofi.
My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good evening and do enjoy the rest of our programs.